every small town has to deal with this crisis, but when your town is so dependent on tourism, it's very important to get a read from you and other people involved to see how it's going.
As far as where St. Michael's is and how unique we are, only in the sense that a lot of our economy and our town is based upon the festivals and the tours and everything else that has now been shut down. Other than that, we're a town just like a lot of other towns in Maryland and the United States that are in the world really dealing with this issue. And that's a lot of really good things happening as long as alongside all the bad things that are happening right now. People are pulling together. Our merchants are just thinking outside the box as far as how they can continue to help the residents, and whether it's restaurants or whatever. We've got a lot of good things going on. It's not all terribly negative, and but we're hunkering down like everybody else and trying to ride the storm here. As far as the festivals, we did cancel. Everything is canceled until the governor lifts the executive order.
There's always this worry that many second or third home owners will get out of their urban environments and flood a place like St. Michael's. Do you see any of that happening?
If the question is whether or not folks in the tri-state area are coming down here, first of all, a lot of people from that area, or from the area that is considered to be a hotbed of this virus right now, do own second homes down here. And St. Michael's is a town that is approximately 40% second home owners. So there's a core base of folks who live here, and then there's a whole bunch of folks that come here on a more part-time basis. So obviously it's a concern. The governor and the state, and the county, have both stated that if you're coming here from, in particular, that area, the tri-state area, if you own a home here, or you're coming here as a visitor, then we are asking that you quarantine for 14 days. So yeah, it's an absolute concern. We're in uncharted territory on so many things here right now. Personal property rights, personal rights in general, versus the rights of the collective good of the safety and welfare of the people of town and the country. So there's a lot of these things that are coming up right now. I can tell you, you mentioned here Innisperry Cabin, got word that they did close down. They are not operating. I personally have driven around town, and I do it fairly often to see who's doing what and what's going on. I don't think any of the B&Bs in town are operating. The Innisperry Cabin is closed down. As far as people coming to their homes, they have a right to, but it would be great if they do quarantine in place.
Well, is there anything on a small town level that you are spending a lot of time on right now?
To answer your question directly, what's St. Michael's doing? Two things. Number one, we have two very, very fundamental areas that we're responsible for as a town that all of us, the commissioners, take very seriously. Number one is to make sure that the water supply is proper and clean and inspected daily. And I want everybody in St. Michael's to know that no matter what happens in regard to this virus, that isn't going to stop. We test the water every single day. We have more than one person that's able to do it. In fact, we have 4. So if somebody gets sick, next person up. Somebody gets sick, next person up. It isn't going to stop. If God forbid we were to have all 4 people get sick and not be able to do it, then we would look to the county and to the state rather for assistance, and I'm sure we'd get it. So I just want to assure all the folks of St. Michael's that that is a primary thing that we do, and we're continuing to do it, and we will not stop doing it. Number 2 is the law enforcement aspect, and that is under control as well. I had the pleasure of swearing in 2 new officers a couple of days ago. We've got close to a full complement of officers with Chief Smith in the town. They're on regular patrol. They're making sure that things are done properly in town as far as security and safety, and people, I think, can continue to understand and know that our force is on the job and is there to help. And, you know, the fire department, for example, Phil Jones, who is the chief of the local fire department here, they are doing extraordinary things to protect their members because, God forbid, again, we don't want members of the volunteer fire department to get sick. And so they're doing what they have to do.
I don't know if we've reached any kind of resolution on this, but this whole issue of how the residents can participate in community meetings is
Yeah.
to be a big issue. St. Michael's had to address this, and what are the possible options?
Actually, this Wednesday, we're going to have a commissioners meeting. It will be a virtual meeting. It'll be on Zoom, the same platform you and I are talking to each other on right now. Anybody that wishes to dial in and view that meeting and view the interactive conversation among the commissioners will be able to do that. That dial-in number and code will be put out either today, probably by later today. And in addition to that, anybody that wishes to type in or interactively type in a question for the commissioners can do that. It'll come up live, it'll be moderated, and we will answer the questions live. So all future meetings at this point, including budget meetings, I might point out, we are still doing our budget meetings starting next week. And we're trying to keep business as usual as far as keeping the town business running. So we're going to have budget meetings that also will be electronically communicated to the public.
Well, a lot to keep up with. I'd like to believe that we'll be talking in the near future.
Well, hopefully face to face, Dave.
Yeah.
And just let me also say that, you know, I mentioned in the outset that there's so many people stepping up doing great stuff. I just want to just mention a couple things. You know, Lion's Rum making hand sanitizer instead of rum. Chris Agarabi is one of our great restaurateurs, of which we have many in town, is doing a free farmers market tomorrow, in which case they're going to hand out literally 500 bags of fresh produce. You know, stuff like that is very, very, very encouraging in the middle of all this craziness. So, you know, I feel good about it. And I feel good about the people that have pulled together. And we've set a lot of our differences behind, if we have any, and we've kind of pulled together and we're all pulling in one direction. This two things I'm sure of. This is going to end. You know, I'm old enough to know that stuff like this does end. And number two, I don't know when it is, but I know that St. Michael's might look a little different, but it's still going to be St. Michael's, and it's still going to be a great place to live in and to come to.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Thanks an awful lot, Dave. So long.